Some chase greatness, others build it. From the heart of New York, where every possession feels like destiny, comes the pulse, the fire, the relentless Redstorm. This is not a podcast. This is a proving ground. A battlefield where fans become family, where voices clash, truth bleeds through passion, and loyalty is not spoken, it's lived. We are here to question, to challenge, to ignite, to ask not what St. John's was, but what it's about to become. Led by Coach Pitino's vision, fueled by the city's soul, driven by fans who never back down. Because here, we don't whisper opinions, we declare war with words. Every debate, every drop of sweat, every heartbeat, this is Redstorm Nation Unfiltered. You just stepped into Relentless Redstorm.
Tonight, we're diving deep, not just into the game, but into the soul of the city that breathes it. Because here in New York, fandom isn't just passion, it's identity. And when the first whistle blows, you're not just watching, you're part of the storm. Let's debate, let's connect, let's get relentless. All right, Derrel, I'm going to start this topic because, again, the game on Monday at Quinnipiac Arena, it was everything that we expected and even more. We got the validation that I think all St. John's fans were looking for in terms of this team being ready. And as I wrote about in my article, they literally set Queens on fire.
I'm a little more tempered about the performance. Certainly a game like that, and you never want to call the first game of the season a trap game, but it kind of is a trap game because they're going to play a very talented team in Alabama on Saturday at the Garden. So the only thing that could have happened that was good on Monday was a blowout win. Obviously, the thought of them losing to Quinnipiac is unheard of. But if it was a close game in the second half and then they, pulled away, there would have been a lot of criticism. So they were able to essentially put the game away in the first half. But that's what they were supposed to do. Let's see what they do against much stiffer competition on Saturday. Pitino talked about Saturday. Pitino talked about how the game against Michigan and Towson got them out of the gate a lot better this season as opposed to when they went to the Bahamas last year, I believe, and lost several very close games against some of the nation's best. It showed that they could compete, but they weren't quite there a season ago. I think the fan base is hopeful that this team can pass the early season tests, and that was not on Monday against Quinnipiac. It's Saturday at Madison Square Garden against Alabama.
I like your argument. I'm going to respectfully disagree only in one capacity, and that is the game itself was everything Pitino needed to see, number one, but everything the fan base needed to see from the standpoint of the team establishing itself. So going into this Alabama game on Saturday, one of the things that had to be very clear in the mind of the fans who don't play the game, but again, they're the energy and the excitement that really is the sixth man on the court, Pitino energized these guys with those two games between Towson and Michigan to understand where they needed to be. And when they came out on Monday night, within 5 minutes, they very quickly understood what the real objective was, which was to dominate. And what they did to that Quinnipiac team, who Pitino, remember, in the post-game press conference, Pitino continually, not just once, several times said Quinnipiac is a very good team. They just didn't play well tonight. Well, the reason they didn't play well was because that St. John's team was so amped up and so focused on defense that even though they played the best offensive game they have in years, it was their defensive prowess that literally shut down Quinnipiac to the point where the last 10 minutes of the game, Quinnipiac actually went on a run because it was garbage time. They had actually gotten, I think, 14 or 15 points in the last 10 minutes where, again, they scored, 60, prior to that. So they wound up looking, not respectful, but better at scoring 74 than they did, 10 minutes prior where I think they were just past 50, 55 somewhere. And a big part of that was the fact that, Pitino even said their defense in the first half was as good as he could have asked for. And even though the second half defense wasn't as good, again, they won by almost 40 points. So
24.
What's that?
They won by 24, no?
No, it was 108 to 74. It was
okay,
34.
Yeah. Yes, 34. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. So I think that, we have to look at it from the standpoint that they easily showed that much more this year, they are ready to step out and establish themselves. Whereas last year, to your point, they were competing. They were in every game, and they had a great level of resilience that Pitino established with them over the course of the season. This year, again, my opinion, not just of this game, but of Pitino and how he's going about this year's team, is he's really putting it on them to get out of the gate quickly, establish the tempo of the game, and really focus on dominating teams, because that's what they're going to need to do against Alabama. And Nate Oates, as a coach, actually mimics a lot of what Pitino does. So, now looking at this game on Saturday, the reality is that you have two up-tempo coaches, and it's really Pitino's relentless chaos engine versus Nate Oates and his analytical artillery of shooters.
The one thing I will say, Tom Pecora is a coach that's been in this area for quite some time. Coaches often complement each other. So I have not seen any predictions about what kind of team that Quinnipiac is. But I would say Rick saying Tom's team is good was more coach speak than the team actually being good.
I will respect that statement.
I will, and ultimately, again, not to diminish the significance of Monday's win, but if they turn around and lose on Saturday, what good is a 34-point win over Quinnipiac? The ultimate goal, when it comes to the ultimate goal in the NCAA tournament, when they're seeding teams, they're not going to look at what St. John's did against Quinnipiac. They're going to look at what they did against Alabama.
You are correct. And getting into the game against Alabama, one of the other things I want to point out is that if you look at Alabama under Nate Oates, They are very much, I said it before that Nate Oates and Pitino are very similar coaches, but Alabama right now reminds me so much of a Pitino Kentucky team back in the 90s, where they literally raced up the court, shot a three, and then pressed.
It's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. It is a home game for the Red Storm. They are ranked number 5. Alabama is ranked number 15. I have not seen the point spread, but I would imagine the Red Storm are a favorite, not a big favorite, but I would believe they are a favorite.
Mhm.
And this is when we're going to, this is the first test of the season. The Michigan game was not a test; it didn't count. Quinnipiac wasn't a test. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing good could come out of that game. Only bad. You know, you win by 14 points, and it's like, why did St. John's air quotes struggle against Quinnipiac?
Right. Correct.
Uh,
They had to dominate, which they did, which was the only result they could have that didn't upset people.
right, right. I think a 24-point win would have done well as well, but I think anything less than a 15-point win would have created a little concern and criticism of the team. Um, I wanted to touch on something that we talked about pregame. Um, I looked at NBADraft.net, uh, fairly reliable draft predictor site that's been around for well over a decade. I checked it, and Ian Jackson was the first St. John's player um, on the team. On that website, projected to be a lottery pick. And when Pitino spoke on Monday, first game of the season, um, he challenged Jackson with a few things, but he said, "quote He has the most upside on the team."
Hmm.
Um, in other words, he, in Pitino's mind, is the most talented player on the team. Um, a team that is full of talented players. But Ian Jackson may be the key to unlocking the full potential of this team. What are your thoughts on that?
You are absolutely on the right track, and that was acknowledged by Patino. More importantly, is the fact that Patino is a master motivator, manipulator in terms of using words in the press to get his players to dial in. And I think he recognized that upside also comes only with Jackson really committing and understanding where his weaknesses are. But to the point of the team, you're absolutely correct that Ian Jackson is got he needs to be the floor leader. And right now he's not. We know that this is Zuby's team. We know that Zuby is the overall general and commander on the floor in terms of getting guys to play and cleaning up and doing all the little things to make this team win. But in terms of setting the tone, setting the pace, and really being relentless, that is where Ian Jackson can make this team magical. To your point, he has the athleticism, he has the IQ, he has the overall natural talent, and he has the guidance of one of the greatest coaches in the games. So when you put that combination together, if Ian Jackson plays even to a fraction of the level of his capacity and what I think you and I, imagine it could be based on what Patino said, absolutely, this team could go to an even higher level. And that's, based on, already having 10 very talented players that demonstrated their value on Monday night.
What were your you did ask Coach a question, which he kind of sidestepped, but as we talked about after with a savvy coach like Rick Pitino, who already knows what he wants to say, regardless of the questions that are being asked. Um, what were some of your big takeaways from Monday night's win, as far as the team itself and on the court is concerned?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, he did sidestep it, although I do want to point out he did recognize that Josan Sanan is absolutely a catalyst off the bench, as well as he could be a catalyst in the starting lineup.
Hmm.
And I think that was really my point, is that between Dylan Mitchell and Josan Sanan, you have two players that are almost identical in terms of size and length and capability, and they're head and shoulders above the talent that Pitino had last year. Both of them are slashers. Both of them can score from the outside. Both of them play really good defense, and both of them can jump out of the gym. On top of that, Bryce Hopkins is playing at a terrific level, and Pitino said that he wants to make him, the ultimate alpha dog. So you're talking about a guy that's a power forward size playing a small forward, almost a three guard, and playing with a level of depth in terms of both defense and offensive, IQ. You saw it on Monday night, against again, less competitive, team, but still the team overall passed the ball, tremendously, 26 assists. And, Bryce Hopkins was a huge part of that. On top of that, you have some great players, off the bat. Sadiku Ibinayo has gotten much better. Left Terrace looks a lot more like a player who can play at this level. Ruben Prey, those are the three returning players. And then on top of that, you have, Dylan Darling, who, I mean, was absolutely, electric on Monday night. And, again, he's got a couple of other players in, Odie, Kelvin Odie, and Poto, who, they're trying to get their minutes, and they're pushing themselves to be really good basketball players. So I think, again, you've got a tremendous core of players and depth in the bench overall that Pitino can reach to and give these guys, some rest that, he probably would not have been able to do last year. I mean, remember, last year you had three players in Zuby, RJ, and Kadari who were playing nearly 40 minutes every game towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. The depth of this team, uh, particularly in the Big East Conference schedule, is just going to wear teams down. Um, Hopefully, they can form such a level of cohesion that they can wear teams down in the NCAA tournament come March, which again is the ultimate goal. Speaking of ultimate goals, um, while we were not uh, near the court when Patino spoke pregame because of a little mishap, um, he was asked a question about it post game, and he clarified um, what he meant when he challenged his team and the
Mhm.
fans um, about taking every minute on court, every game seriously, so that when March comes, you're in a position to potentially claim the biggest prize in college basketball.
Yes, and you're being kind there by saying that he clarified. It was more like a very severe correction. And I really appreciate the way that he can be stern and yet at the same time respectful. But he wanted to make sure that it was very clear in the minds of all of us that what he said was that you focus on one game at a time. And if you do that enough, you could wind up with a ring on your finger, but you can never get ahead of focusing on the game at hand because that's, again, if you look ahead, past the first game or past the next game that you have, you can very easily, fall into a trap and lose your chance.
And
So it was very clear to me that he wanted to make sure that we stay in the moment with the team.
absolutely, and you're right. He made it clear because the question that was asked was a severe misinterpretation of what he said.
Yeah,
Uh, and he definitely corrected and made sure that what he said was understood by all of us sitting there. Um, and you have to, again, the first game of the season in no way should be a trap game. But if we look at the schedule, um, you know, who they play before they meet UConn for the first time during the Big East schedule, that has the potential for a trap game because you're looking at the clash of the Titans, the clash of the not only the Big East Titans, but right now, UConn is ranked 4 in the country. St. John's is ranked 5 in the country. If these teams continue to win, they will be ranked in the top 10 all season. So, both regular season clashes and perhaps a clash in a Big East tournament in
right.
late February, early March will have not only implications on the Big East, but the national AP rankings as well.
How
And
great would it be to
and
have two Big East teams ranked, to seeded number one in the tournament?
that would be great. And if I recall correctly, and I re-listened to the audio yesterday, Pitino obviously talked about Quinnipiac. He obviously talked about Alabama. That's who the team is playing, and he did mention UConn on Monday. Um, That wasn't what I was looking for, so I did not jot down what he said about UConn, but he did mention UConn.
Hmm.
Uh, so obviously, UConn is already on his mind, as it should be. They are the team that he's going to face at least twice this season. Um, no disrespect to Creighton. Creighton is ranked in the top 25 as well, but um, it's a battle with UConn for uh, Big East supremacy, just as it was last year. But you know, um, St. John's was able to reign supreme, not only in the Big East regular season, but in the Big East tournament as well. And they would like to repeat that feat this year.
Yes, and the challenge that they face obviously really goes down the line from UConn to the other Big East teams. And to the point we were making earlier, the one game at a time philosophy begins with what happened on Monday night. And I have to, step back and acknowledge that you are right that it was a trap game. And the reason why I had the excitement I did at the beginning of this episode to say that they set it on fire, and that's why I wrote the article the way I did, is
Great article, by the
because,
way. Fans
thank you
should
very
definitely
much.
check it out. Make sure it's a great read.
Yeah, the point is that they got it off their shoulders. The way they established dominance in that game was the only way they could play to get it off their shoulders, that trap, because they were in an escape room, in a sense. Pitino set them up. that they had to dominate that game in order for them not to get controversy from the fans, in order for them not to get criticized. And so, because they got that off their shoulders, now they can look ahead to this game with Alabama with a much more clear focus on the four-headed perimeter monster of Alabama. You got LeBaron Fallon Jr., Aiden Holloway, Houston Millett, and Latrell Wrightsell. Now, I've looked at these guys, Derrel. LeBaron, versatile scorer, pace setter. Holloway's 41% from three. He's lethal, off catch and shoot. Millett, and go to that point, he's a Reggie Miller type of catch and shoot player. You're talking about somebody who can come around a pick and release with less than a second. Then you have Houston Millett, who's again returning from injury, but he knows how to space himself. He knows how to get into the right place at the right time. And then you have Wrightsell, who is like Dylan Mitchell, someone who has the confidence to shoot from 2, 3, 4 feet behind the NBA arc, not just the regular arc. So you have four guys in Alabama that are going to give St. John's absolute frustration in terms of how quickly they can get it out of their hands. So I think that, going back to what I said before, and you being right about that being a trap game, they had to play to the level that they did with that intensity to understand what they're going to need going into Alabama, because these guys are fast and they're accurate.
One thing, a couple of things I also wanted to touch on. Coach Pitino raved about the team's athleticism, which can't be debated. Several monster dunks by Sellers, by Zuby. So you can see the athleticism of the team kind of jumping off the screen. Of course, we were there in person, so it wasn't jumping off the screen, it's jumping off the floor. But really, the only two players that really had that last year, for the most part, were RJ Lewis and Zuby. Whereas now, they can be relentless with offensive and defensive boards, putbacks, because of that athleticism. Also, something I wanted to touch on was Zuby. We got to see a little of Zuby, the playmaker. He didn't, because it was a blowout, Zuby only played 24 minutes, but he had 3 assists in those 24 minutes. In the final year of his collegiate career, I think him showing his ability to not only be able to push the ball off of rebounds, but also being able to find the open man will only enhance his potential in the NBA and his draft status.
You're absolutely right. And the way that Zuby brought the ball up early in the game was a testament to that. Again, the argument that St. John's doesn't have a point guard right now, they got 5 point guards the way that, Zuby played. And, I think that the advantage for, Pitino this year, the level of talent that you just, mentioned, Pitino didn't have that last year. And he had a very good team, again, willing to endure whatever the other team brought at them. And in the second half, they closed out so many teams last year. This team has a level of talent that I don't think Pitino has had since Kentucky. And, that's my opinion, but truthfully, Dylan Mitchell and Josan Sanin, again, are 2 RJ Lewis's, head and shoulders above the level of ability that RJ had last year. And that's not a knock on RJ. RJ was the player of the year for the Big East last year, and his development over the course of the season Pitino had to build his confidence and give him that ability to really dominate a game. You saw it in the first game on Monday night. Both Shannon and Mitchell have that confidence already. They are not afraid to take the ball. They are not afraid to, be aggressive, and they are very, very good on both ends of the floor. On top of that, to your point of, Ian Jackson's upside, here's a kid who demonstrates that he could combine both Kadari and, Davon Smith into one player. He has that athleticism that Davon had. He can push the ball like Davon, but he also has the floor management skills to slow it down, control the tempo, get past the defender, and then distribute the ball. And then you have, a number of other players again, and Dylan Darling and who am I thinking of? Sadiko, sorry, who's returning, who again brings such an energy into the lineup off the bench to give these guys spells, and both of them have demonstrated, their ability to shoot. And a credit to Sadiko, scoring 10 points in the game on Monday night. He looked like a real player. He wasn't just, coming in, to give somebody a rest. He was playing. He was, taking up floor space, and he was making some big shots.
Absolutely. He is also one of the captains on the team. So hopefully he does if Monday's game was any indication, he's going to have a bigger role on this team than in past years, both off the court and on the court.
So the prediction for, Saturday night, Derrel, or actually it's a day game. So it's the prediction for Saturday is St. John's is obviously a slight favorite due to the home court at MSG. But again, Alabama's shooting, could make this a very, very close game. And I'm excited about it. But one of the things that I also think that we really need to see, and it's going to be the fans that, make this electric, is really the stadium itself, the Garden being what it needs to be for the St. John's team.
Well, I would imagine the building will be at least 85% St. John's fans. Alabama has a big fan base, more known for its football, but there are certainly Alabama graduates, Alabama alum here in New York City. Of course, you have the bandwagon fans as well that are Alabama football fans who may not necessarily be Alabama basketball fans, but we will see Alabama hats and jerseys in the arena on Saturday, but it should be at least 85% St. John's fans. And I think the fan base has brought in. They were high expectations a season ago. And though the fans came back later in the season, they kind of abandoned the team early in the season last year because of the losses. And then they came back. Hopefully the team performs well enough early in the season to keep those fans not only keep the fans here, but to, hey, the bandwagon's open to everybody. New York is a big city. Let's get everybody on board.
I agree. And the things to watch for, in this game on Saturday are going to be, how the ball moves in both teams, how the fans react, to the plays. Derrel, going back to Monday, it was your first time at Carnesecca Arena. Obviously you got a chance to, experience that, Queens taste of the team, and how, the stadium was packed with real St. John's students as well as alumni, and the core of St. John's fans. Now you go into the Garden, and obviously, packing the Garden it becomes a much bigger cultural experience. And we're transferring that energy from Queens into the larger city that, Madison Square Garden fills from all the boroughs as well as Long Island and the metro area. So I think the excitement that we're talking about now and really what I'm eager to experience is just how much more the fan base has bought into what Pitino has, basically built here.
And then, and because of this game, because of the significance of this game, uh, first week of the college basketball season, number 15 versus number 5 at the world's most famous arena. Tip off shortly after noon. I'm sure there will be plenty of people in the arena that had a classic New York breakfast sandwich, a bacon, egg, and cheese on the way to the Garden. It's going to be a true test for both teams, and it's a game that will hold weight uh, later in the season, and in the standings, in the AP rankings that come out on Monday. Certainly, the winner will hold their position. Uh, it will be hard for St. John's to move up unless one of the top 4 teams lost. But certainly, if Alabama was to pull off the upset, St. John's would fall in the rankings, and Alabama would climb, and those 2 teams would be a lot closer in the top 15. So I credit both coaches for having uh, the desire to play challenging games like this early in the season. Some teams choose to have a early season schedule with a bunch of cupcakes. Not Nate Oates, not Rick Pitino. They are challenging not only themselves and their teams. Rick is playing in that tournament, and Rick had St. John's playing in that tournament. Last year it was Bahamas. This year it's going to be later this month in Las Vegas, where they will play, I believe, 4 games in 4 days. So very challenging, very grueling, especially the week of Thanksgiving. But that will really let us know, in addition to this Saturday's game, where the St. John's Redstorm are early in the season. But I just want to emphasize to all of the fans, patience is key with this team. We know we have a Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer at the helm, and imagine Coach Pitino with a cauldron, and he has all of these players in the cauldron. The best results will happen in February and early March, not in November. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, if the team is winning these tough games and going into Vegas and coming out with victories over other very talented teams, then look out.
Absolutely. And to your point, iron sharpens iron. And I love the cauldron analogy, man. That is absolutely where I think Pitino has put this specific team is in a cauldron. And I think Saturday really comes down to one question, Derrel, which is, can St. John's perimeter defense hold up while maintaining a rebounding discipline? Because the main thing that we learned from the Michigan game was the weakness of this particular team's guard rebounding ability. And Quinnipiac was one test, but now you have the real test against a very, very fast, athletic, accurate Alabama team that can shoot the lights out. And St. John's players have to be relentless on defense, but they also have to be relentless on the boards And they also have to be relentless in their own shooting and scoring ability.
I think definitely outside shooting and protecting the ball will be the key to this game. Uh, there were not many negative things to look at on Monday, but the team did have 14 turnovers, with Bryce Hopkins leading the way with 3 turnovers. He did have 5 assists, but um, 3 turnovers is too much. You got to take care of the ball. So when you're
Absolutely.
playing a fast game, um, and the fact that they play fast, Pitino said he believes that uh, his team can play fast against them. When you're playing at a fast pace, sometimes it's a little too fast, and that creates turnovers. Um, Dead ball turnovers are one thing. Live ball turnovers are the ones that can cost you a victory. So those are the
Absolutely.
things that I would worry about. Obviously, uh, defense on their perimeter guys, on their shooters. You don't want somebody to get hot early on because of St. John's athleticism, because of the deep bench. The Red Storm have the ability to throw multiple different defenders at their best players, just in case somebody gets off early. You can put sides on them. You can put a smaller, quicker player on somebody. This team has options. In that cauldron that I talked about, um, Pitino does have different options, and we will see that in action on Saturday.
And I think that's the key is how does Pitino position this team and how does he use his players to combat against this Alabama team? And I think that's going to be a big showcase for the team and for the fans for the season ahead is as we talked about just how much Patino has this year that he didn't have last year and what these guys really have the opportunity to present. So I'm really excited about this Saturday game. I'm looking forward to being able to watch it with the uh, overall focus on the future games in Vegas and going into the new year with a very very exciting program at a high ranking. But you're absolutely right that one loss could shift everything for this team. And so it really is how they play in these big games early in the season. On that note, Derrel, I give you the final word for this session. Again, this was a great conversation, and I look forward every week to having these with you.
Relentless Redstorm is a platform where we can, all as fans of the St. John's Red Storm, come together and show our love, our fandom for the product that we see on the court. Whether you are from Queens, New York, whether you're from Harlem, Washington Heights, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Staten Island, the Bronx, or even New Jersey or Connecticut, because we know there are uh, St. John's fans in the state of Connecticut as well. This is a place where we all come together. And if you happen to see Jason or myself at a future game, come over and say hello. We are really friendly guys. We love to talk hoops, not only with each other, but with you, the fans. So anybody out there who is going to the game on Saturday or to a future Red Storm game, if you see Jason or myself, come and say hello.
Awesome. You've been in the eye of the storm. Saturday, the fire meets the tide. Let's see which current survives the garden. Derrel, thank you as always, and to all our fans, We look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Take care.
Welcome to the Empire. It's a movie.